Jared Robert Kelenic. That's it. That's the cold open. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after the game. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you want to hear from us even more, consider signing up for our Patreon. The link, as well as our social accounts, are in the description of the show, wherever you're watching or listening to this. Oh, man, it feels good to talk about a win today. Seriously. Like, the last few days have been utterly depressing to watch, particularly from, when it comes to this offense. This Mariners offense has been atrocious, but today they explode for 9 runs out of nowhere, out of seemingly thin air. They pull 9 runs and overcome a 5-3 deficit. It looked like, oh no, the Mariners are in danger of getting swept by one of the worst teams in baseball. And we're going to be talking about the Julio Rodriguez injury. We're going to be talking about George Kirby's struggles. But, Colby, we need to start with the man of the hour, Jared Kelenic, who in his first start since being recalled from AAA Tacoma in Disney movie script fashion, helps a stagnant Mariners offense do what it did today and hopefully break out of this pathetic slump that it's been in over the last few days, aside from that one game against the Angels. By the way, a message to the Mariners. You guys know that you can win games on days that we don't do a post-game show, right? Like, that is allowed. We don't need to just only talk about wins on here. But I digress. What a day it was for Jared Kelenic, who goes 2 for 3 with a walk, an absolute moonshot of a solo home run, and an RBI double that knotted things up at 5 apiece. The Mariners, of course, jumped out to a 3-0 lead in this game with a big first inning against Adrian Martinez. But then, George Kirby, and we'll talk about him a little bit later, had a very uncharacteristic day. The A's get a 5 spot in, the 3rd or 4th inning? And fortunately, that was it for the A's. But Kelenic led the way here for the M's. The solo home run brought things within 1 run, and then he was able to get the additional run that they needed to knot things up his next time through the lineup. How big was this for Jared Kelenic? And considering the way that Jesse Winker continues to play, last night was another rough night for Winker. He, of course, was the DH today. Kind of seems like Kelenic is, or at least should be, getting most of the starts there in left field, right?
I'm just trying to figure out what Kelenic did that was so impressive today. Is all. He took a walk, hit a 440-foot home run, hustle double where he broke the 30 feet per second mark that is considered elite, 30.1 feet per second. Didn't really show off much of his game. No mistakes in the field. Just kind of, just kind of was. That's all it was. It was what it was. Jared is in a really good position right now to produce numbers because he did make some changes at AAA. He's covering more of the zone right now. He is swinging and missing at a lot fewer pitches. He's missing a lot fewer pitches when he gets them to hit. And that's been true since he got sent back down again in mid-August. He went down there and he made the changes, and the numbers bear it out. His strikeout rate continues to drop. His hard hit rate, I think before he was recalled in August 14th, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it was hovering around 20% hard hit rate. When he got sent back down to AAA until he made his 4th debut today, that hard hit rate in AAA was 44%. So yeah, he did make some changes. He's covering more of the plate, and for the next 2 weeks, he's going to be facing largely major league pitching, no doubt, but certainly not. I mean, it's 4A and it's not Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortez and right. It's a bunch of bad pitching staffs, more or less. Maybe a few good arms sprinkled in there, but for the large part, it's going to be mostly, you know, major league arms, which is something Kelenic should hit because he saw a lot of those in AAA. So he's in a good position right now, both at the plate and based on the quality of opponent he's going to face here in the last few weeks to kind of get on a roll and hopefully carry that because, yeah, his defense is significantly better than Jesse Winker. There's no question about that. It's better than Mitch Haniger too, but you can't replace both of those with one guy. So I think Kelenic is going to play a lot. There's no reason for him not to. They'd probably still protect him against a tough lefty. That's probably when we see Dylan Moore out there in the outfield, Sam Haggerty in the outfield. There's a lefty coming up, I believe, in this Kansas City series, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what they decide to do. They might not have a choice with Julio, who we'll talk about later. But yeah, Kelenic, this was the first time he came up and performed in his first opportunity. The first time he came up, he went 0 for 4 the first night. The second time he came back up in September, he wasn't very good for a little while. Or what was that, July last year? He wasn't that good for a little while. And then this year he came, wasn't good, got sent back down, came back up, wasn't very good. And so this is kind of the first time he started out on the right foot. And you kind of saw the entire game today, the power, the patience, the speed. It was all on display today. And it's just a good reminder of this is the ceiling of Jared Kelenic. And if he fixed some of those issues in AAA, mainly, making more contact and making more consistently hard contact, that he can still be a very good player at this level. He's only 23 years old, and I feel like people sometimes forget that.
Does he look a little slimmed down to you?
I don't know about slim, but he looked more athletic in the batter's box. Like the swing didn't look like a blacksmith. It looked more like an artist, right? It kind of had flow to it. It was quicker. And, in the past we've seen Kelenic just look like he's, a giant carrying a toothpick at the plate. And the swing didn't look like it had natural flow. Today it did. Granted, it's only one game, so we'll see. It wasn't against top-notch pitching, but it's okay because, that's just who he has to face. And Kelenic faced these type of guys in April and, in May, and he wasn't doing this. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. So not to take anything away from Jared, I would just, be a little cautious here. We have to see how it plays out, but my assumption is we are going to get to see him a lot. I said this yesterday on CTZ when, we found out that he had been called up, and there's really no reason to call him up if you're not planning on playing him 60-70% of the remaining games. It doesn't make sense.
Scott Service saying after the game today that he will get plenty of opportunities to play, and part of that, of course, is the Julio injury, which we'll be talking about in just a moment. But this is now the 12th straight game that he's gotten a hit in. If you count his AAA games, it's like his 7th or 6th or 7th multi-hit game in that span as well. And you look at the home runs specifically, just going back to the swing and how fluid it looks, it's a difficult pitch to drive the way that he did. That's a 95 mile per hour sinker near the bottom of the zone. And he got around it.
It's a cookie for a lefty.
I mean,
it was 90. It was 93
on the inside corner. It was 90. It was 95.
It was inner third. It was about thigh high. Like
it was 94.
I'm not going to give him credit for hitting that pitch. A good hitter should hit that pitch regularly with authority.
440 feet though.
Not 440 feet, but he should hit it hard, and Kelenic did, and that's the difference between Kelenic and just another player. Right? Is that Kelenic can do that, and Kelenic, at his best, isn't going to miss that pitch that often. And for the first 500, most of the first 500 plate appearances, that's a pitch he would miss, or he would roll over on it, or he would pop up like that. So it's still a good sign, but like, I don't want to go crazy with it. That was a pitch right in the loop zone, and he didn't miss it, which is good because, again, in the past he has, but I'm not going to say that was a really, really hard pitch to hit. It wasn't exactly a cookie, but it wasn't like, George Kirby's two-seamer over the inside corner.
No, but I mean, that's a pitch that he will or has missed in the past, that he's not driving like that in the past. Like, that's a good sign to me, at least. It's
a pitch that Jesse Winker this year has seen a lot, and he has fouled it off his foot, essentially. And Kelenic didn't. So that's good. It just, I don't know. I didn't think it was like a particularly amazing piece of hitting aside from the distance. He's so strong. And bat speed's not an issue with him. So it's a pitch that I think most good lefties hit hard, probably in the gap, or hit it hard and see what happens. Not a lot of guys can turn that pitch into, what was it, 435, 440, whatever it was. Like, that's the difference. And he hit it so high too. That's the other thing. I think the apex was like 120 feet in the air. Like, it was a boomer, and they needed it because it was right after the big inning, right? And it's like, oh no, here we go again. And got him right back on track, and the momentum, he was able to kind of start pushing the boulder back up the other side of the momentum hill, and it worked out.
The data on it: 427 feet, 33 degree launch angle, 108.4 miles per hour off the bat. Yeah, so just absolutely smoked off the bat. All right, we're going to be talking about how or just all about the Julio Rodriguez injury. We're going to also be talking about George Kirby's day in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Nugenics. Feeling like you just can't get in shape? It's not your fault. As men age, our body naturally loses free testosterone, the man hormone. It happens to every man and can make it more difficult to stay in shape and be energetic and active. Want more energy to counter the negative physical effects of aging? Nugenics Total T Testosterone Booster with Testofen will help you turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, get you better results at the gym, and help you look and feel like the man you really want to be. Nugenics Total T contains man-boosting key ingredients like Testofen. It has been validated in 5 clinical studies shown to boost free testosterone levels in men. Plus, Nugenics Total T is the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC and can help re-energize your life and help you get back to the powerful, confident, good-looking warrior you used to be. Now get a complimentary bottle of Nugenics Total T when you text MLB to 231231. Text now and get a bottle of Nugenics Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text MLB to 231231. Text MLB to 231231. Message and data rates may apply. Terms apply. Available at nugenics.com/terms. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after the game. So, Colby, not a great day for George Kirby. The average velocity was down about half a tick. He was really struggling to find the strike zone, which is very uncharacteristic for Kirby. It's the first time he's walked multiple guys in his major league career today. 3 walks, and just could not get out of trouble. He was really tempting fate through the first few innings of this game. The A's finally got to him. A bases clearing triple by Steven Vogt really broke things open for the A's offense. But that was also the only inning that they were able to score. Matt Brash was able to come in, limit the damage, and the bullpen carried it the rest of the way. But yeah, what went wrong for Kirby today?
Yeah, just control and command at the end of the day. We saw a lot of near misses, pitches that were close to the strike zone, but they were off by a couple inches, and he didn't get any of those calls. But that's fine. They weren't strikes. So it's not the umpire's fault. Kirby was just off by a little bit. And Kirby's a pinpoint control guy right now. The off-speed stuff, it's fine, but it's not plus, right? It's something that he still needs to work on. But because he has the fastball control and command that he usually does, and the control and command of his off-speed pitches, like those pitches all play up. Well, if you don't have the pinpoint command and you got to challenge guys in the middle of the strike zone, the average, good 55 grade stuff in the middle of the zone drops to 45. It's worth noting the big hit he gave up, the triple. It was a blooper and it just fell right on top of the foul line. So it's not like it was crushed or anything like that. So a little bit of BABIP luck there, but you can't walk 3 guys and then complain about BABIP luck. You can't do it. Not in 3 innings, 3 2/3, whatever it was. So yeah, for Kirby, it was just all about control and command. Velocity was down slightly today. I don't know if that was to try and, counteract the fact that he didn't have a good feel for, with the command, to maybe try and guide pitches in instead of just throwing them. Or if it's fatigue, or if it's just one of those days where he just couldn't really get loose. So To me, it's nothing to panic about. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's the first time we've seen anything like this since the Baltimore start. And we're getting to the end here, and maybe there's a little bit of fatigue setting in, maybe, but we got an off day coming up on Monday. He's going to get an extra day's rest, and then Seattle can and probably will at some point really start to consider skipping him, maybe going to flexing for a game or pushing him back another additional start. So to me, it's nothing I'm concerned about. It was just all about command and control today, and Flexen, who's normally Kirby, who's normally a 70 grade control, 65 grade command guy, was in the 40s, 45 today, and that's just not going to work with his current stuff.
And it just felt like, man, you finally get some offense in the first inning. You get a 3-0 lead. And then George Kirby, who's just been, immaculate for the most part this season, has like one of the most uncharacteristic starts you could think of against one of the worst teams in baseball, against one of the worst offenses in baseball, an offense that's starting Steven Vogt in 2022. And it's just like, is this team cursed? I don't believe in curses, but it's moments like that where you actually you start to doubt yourself a little bit. It's like, wait, what's going on here? Why is this happening right now? Thankfully, the Mariners were able to mount the comeback, and they were able to tack on some insurance, and it was a non-issue. But it's just so I don't know. A lot of things that happened in the series, it's kind of inexplicable. It's just completely, unexpected and just out of nowhere and doesn't really make any sense. And Kirby's start today, I think, was kind of the peak of that. It was the biggest thing that didn't make any sense in this series. And it's just I'm so glad we're done with Oakland, because the last couple series in Oakland have been a nightmare. So really glad that we're done with that. That was wow.
Yeah, it's a difficult ballpark to play in, largely because it's big and empty. It's tough to get juice from the fans or anything like that. And the Mariners, they kind of failed to produce their own juice the last 2 days, and really the last few times they've gone down there. So it's just going to be one of those things where you kind of write it off and be happy that you're done with Oakland. You only have one more divisional opponent left, and you get to play them at home, where there should be plenty of juice in the stadium for you. So it's one of those things they have to play better. It's something that they can't really fix right now, but in the off season they'll address. And the way you play better in those stadiums is you have a deeper lineup, right? You don't need Dylan Moore to get a big hit. You don't need Adam Frazier to get 3 RBI. Because you're just better than that. And so that's something that they'll address in the off season. But for now, it's nice to, you're done with your road AL West schedule. Now you just got 3 more road games and you're back home to finish it off. And we'll see where they land in the wild card standings, and if they get to host playoff games or not. Seems unlikely. But we'll see. You never know. Just gotta get on a little bit of a roll here. At some point, you got to start stringing some wins together. You don't need a 7-game win streak, but can you win 3 in a row, 4 or 5? Can you start to do that and kind of turn the momentum around before we get to the playoffs? Hopefully, we'll see. 13 games left to do it, and the magic number is 9. So at least right now.
Yeah. As we're recording this, Orioles up 2-0 on the Astros. Actually got 2 runs off of Justin Verlander. Go figure. Imagine if the Mariners lost this game.
Astros are getting no hit, by the way.
Yeah. So that's fun. So
Tampa
potentially
Bay
the magic number is not going down to 8 tonight. We'll see.
Right. Tampa Bay is up, by the way, 6-3 in the bottom of the 4th, and they have 2 guys on with 1 out. So,
well,
big series there for the Mariners. If you're a Mariner fan, you're probably rooting for Tampa. They do have the tiebreaker on you, but it's going to be easier to catch Toronto if Tampa wins 3 or 4. If Tampa loses 3 or 4 here, you're pretty much guaranteed the 6 based on how everybody's playing at the moment. So we'll see.
So Mariners will see this A's team one more time in Seattle for 3 more games. They also get the Rangers, and they'll have the Tigers right after the A's series. But Thankfully, they're done in Oakland. They're done with the Coliseum. That place has been kind of a house of horrors for them this year, as weird as it is to say that. So it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows today for the Mariners, though. Obviously the Kirby start, but Julio Rodriguez, after doubling to lead off this game and later scoring on an RBI single by Mitch Haniger, ended up having to leave the game in the second inning. He ran out to the field, ran out to his position, and his back, which has been bothering him for the last week or so, held him out of a couple games in Anaheim, started to, quote-unquote, lock up on him, as Scott Servais said, and Servais even went as far as to say that it's concerning, the injury. They're going to do an MRI tomorrow in Kansas City, and Julio's going to get some work done, going to get some treatment. If it was up to me, I don't know what the severity of the injury is, obviously. We don't know if it's just, more tightness like how it was back in Anaheim, or if there's even something worse, fingers crossed, knock on wood, it's not. But if it's just kind of, more of the same as it was in Anaheim, I wouldn't play him in Kansas City. Wouldn't play him in Kansas City. And an IL stint at that point shouldn't be out of the equation. If you feel that it's something that's going to take, less than 10 days to for him to recover from, fine, but you need to be absolutely sure. You cannot do the same thing that you did with him last time, basically take his word for it and just roll with him again. Because, if he re-aggravates it again, if you put him back on the field and say, the second to last game in Kansas City, or the last game in Kansas City, or, one of the opening games against the Rangers here, and he re-aggravates it, you're looking at him missing time in the postseason, potentially. So you got to use this little bit of time that you have left here, this little bit of buffer that you have left here, to try and get him healthy, because you need Julio. Because, obviously you got to play the games when you get to the postseason, but if they don't have Julio, they're probably one and done.
Yep. 2-Q this year. It's one of those things. The Mariners' handling of their injured players down the stretch here has been puzzling. And I know some of on the Seattle beat disagree with that, but Ty France never went on the IL, and Ty France never figured it out. Is Ty France just a bad hitter now? I find that hard to believe. So I don't know about that. But I look at a guy like, that Mitch with his thing, they didn't put him on the IL, and he's come back, and Mitch hasn't been very good. You kind of look at Julio, the back thing. No, we don't need to put him on the IL. We don't need to put him on the IL. Comes back, plays 1 or 2 games in 1 inning, and all of a sudden he needs an MRI, and he needs some treatment on the lower back injury. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing that popped up. Cal Raleigh's thumb. We're not going to put him on the IL. We don't need to. And Cal hasn't been the same. Did have a double today. It was good to see. And he caught fine. So it's just one of those things that the Mariners have been kind of, I would say, not cautious enough. And I get why maybe they push it, because they're trying to get that number 1 wild card. I understand that, but at some point, right, you have to, you have to do what's best in the long-term future. And what good is it to have the home playoff games if Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, and Ty France can't play in them, right? It just doesn't make a difference. So I think for me, it's puzzling how they've handled this. My hope is that they didn't get an MRI last time, which to me is dumb, objectively just dumb. Why wouldn't you? Hey, I got a sore back. Oh, that's cool. We just paid you $400 million. We're just going to trust that we're going to trust your word that you're healthy. And you can't do that with any player. A player is going to tell you he's healthy if he thinks he is, and you just can't trust that. So we'll see what happens here the rest of the way with the injuries. I wouldn't be opposed to putting Julio on the IL. I don't think they have to, because there's really nobody they could call up right now that would help them more than hopefully getting Julio back in 4 or 5 days. But they need to be extra cautious with this, and maybe it means Julio DHs a couple times down the stretch here just to make sure of things. It's just weird, right? Because he hit the double in the first. He ran the bases. Nothing looked out of the ordinary. Everything looked totally fine, and then it just all of a sudden went on him. Like it was out, and so that's pretty concerning to me. So we'll see. And you look at the violence of Julio's swing on top of it. Like, yeah, I'm not surprised that there have been some torque issues with Julio, just because the swing is so violent and so fast and so powerful. So we'll see. I don't want to play doctor. Maybe it's something he just needs a day or two and he's back. But maybe it's something that he's going to be out 4 or 5 days, and maybe you should just consider putting him on the IL and making sure he's healthy for the playoffs. It's kind of a tough spot to be in right now, but you got to do it.
Yeah, and if you got to put him on the IL because it's an injury, you can bring Taylor Trammell back up. You don't have to wait the 10 days and all that stuff. So that's a pretty easy fix there. And Kelenic looked fine in center field today, so all things are good.
He'll be okay.
There. So he'll be fine there. And if you got to play Dylan Moore out there, you got to play Dylan Moore out there for a day. So it is what it is. But I mean, just you got to play it safe. You got to play it absolutely safe here, because look, the closer that you get to the postseason, the further your magic number goes down, and it looks all but certain that you're going to lock up a wild card spot here. Like you said, there's only so much you can do about the wild card one, and there's no risk in forcing these guys to play if you're not going to have them. If you're running the risk of not having them for those games, right? It doesn't matter at that point. So.
One of the issues too is that they can't just cycle guys through the DH right now either, because like half of their team should be the DH. There's 3 or 4 guys who should be the DH on a nightly basis, and then there's a couple of guys. Gino has to be the DH when he comes back, and what are you going to do with Julio? You can't get Julio, Ty France, Carlos Santana, and Gino in the lineup every single night together. It's going to be a very tight fit, right? So just one of those things that it's part of the issue, the way when you build your team this way, and part of that is because of injuries, but it is the reality. And so we'll see what the Mariners can do, how flexible they can get. But the Julio concern is a concern. It's we'll see what they say again. I'm not going to start to panic until we get more. We'll see what the MRI says. But it's obviously, a pretty big damper on what was, a good day. And ultimately, despite losing a series, their magic number drops by 2 again. So it just, again, the idea that, the Mariners are in danger of missing the playoffs. No, they're not. They're not in any danger of missing the playoffs. What we're seeing right now is the high likelihood of playoff games. They're losing that possibility. Still out there. Tampa Bay's up right now, 8-3. Houston just got its first hit. Bradish just retired the first 17 men he faced. So we'll see. Maybe Houston can win this game and you can drop the magic number again. But yeah, to me right now, I can't care about whether or not you get home playoff games when the health of so many key players is up in the air right now. So to me, if you have to sacrifice the home playoff games to be as healthy as you possibly can, that's a sacrifice you have to make. You need Julio in the playoffs more than you need the playoff games to be in Seattle. So you got to do what's best for him.
But yeah, again, not concerned at all about about not making the playoffs right now, because like Chicago is 6 back. They have to be 6 games better than the Mariners over their final 13 games.
12
in order to they got 13 including tonight.
I think it's 12 including tonight, but
there's 76 and whatever.
76 and 73. Oh yeah, so it would be. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
13. Yeah.
13.
So the that's incredibly hard to do. Yeah. That's incredibly hard to do.
Right. Tampa just scored again. So
okay. So there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like if Seattle
have to be 5 games better because of the tiebreaker.
Right. If the Mariners go 6 and 7, Chicago has to run the table. They have to go 12 and 1. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And if the Mariners go 6 and 7, Baltimore has to go 11 and 2. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want to say the Mariners are going to go 6 and 7. there's a decent likelihood they finish better than that. But even if they don't, if they just finish 6-7, Chicago's not going 12-1.
Yeah.
Baltimore's not going 11-2. So to me, it's just about getting healthy. Get as healthy as you can for the playoffs. And let's, cross our fingers and hope that a starting outfield against, I don't know, Cleveland isn't Kelenic, Trammell, Dylan Moore. So fingers crossed, baby.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us on the Locked On Mariners postgame show here. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen after the game. Now make your second listen, the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.